Yeah, and I know Team Nigeria well represented in the chat. Team USA and especially Team Wanderer 15 as Will's username online. Also a fan, or a lot of representation in chat as well. So give some messages of love in chat to either one of these players. I'm sure they'll go back and watch this video after the fact. But very excited to watch this matchup. Yesterday, our goal was to broadcast as many different countries as possible and try to diversify the stream. But today and for the rest of the tournament, we will be doing our best to show maybe some different players, but all players near the top of the standings. We'll be looking at tables 1 through 5-ish to try to bring some different but exciting players to the table for you. So I'm expecting good high-level Scrabble. Not that we didn't see that yesterday, but we're expecting now elite, the cream of the crop, as these are the players really vying for a world championship ring today. Will Anderson is currently in first place in this tournament, one of two players at 8-0. He is joined by Harshan Lamaba Dusuria of England. Several players at 7-1. We've got 5 of them right now. 2 players from Nigeria, Nsikak and Wellington Jagiri, to nobody's surprise. 2 players from the USA, Conrad Bassett Bouchard and Chris Leip. And 1 player from Malaysia, Kien Hung Yo. Also 2 players at 6.5 and 1.5 after tying their last game yesterday. That'd be Alex Seaholm of the USA and Adam Logan of Canada. Man, what a stellar group at the top of these standings so far. I'm excited. Shan, what are you looking forward to watching today in these 8 games?
I think we're going to see a lot of bingos. I think this is where you get to learn few new words along the way, even as commentators. We're going to pick up expansion to our vocabulary. That's always fun. I think we're going to start to get opportunities to see some strategy. I'd love to see a 9-letter word come down during some of these games. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, 9s are always super fun. And yesterday on stream, we got to watch a triple as well. The word agentive, Agentive, played through a G in the second spot. 2 triple word scores and 158 points for that triple bingo. That was a rather impressive, cool stuff. And I'm looking forward to more stellar play today. Announcements are still going on in the playing room, which is why we have a brief delay. Of course, players want absolute quietude before they begin their game so they can focus on their racks 100%. But yeah, looking forward to some good play. And looking forward to what Nigeria and Nsikak have to offer, but also Will Anderson, big online presence. And it'd be really awesome to see Scrabble's top streamer win a world championship here and put his money where his mouth is. We already saw Josh Sokol, a top streamer in NWL, win the SPC NWL division last week. So can Will complete the sweep 2 for 2 on big time streamers and titles? We will find out in just a few short minutes. But I am quite excited. For those of you just joining our coverage today, the World Scrabble Championship is being hosted in the United States for the first time since 2001. It is being held in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is a blistering, roughly 115 to 120 Fahrenheit, which equates to about 46 or 47 Celsius. It is extremely hot. When the doors to the playing room open and you step outside, it feels the same way it feels when you open the door to the oven or your barbecue pit and just get hit with this wave of heat. Your eyes dry out. It is a dry heat in the desert in Las Vegas. Lots of altitude as well. Vegas way up in the mountains, and perhaps to players more accustomed to sea level play, that may influence their play just a smidge. I've also found in Las Vegas it is exceptionally easy to get dehydrated. So hopefully players able to perform at their peak. Obviously also a lot of distractions in Las Vegas with the killer nightlife scene, gambling and shows, comedy, food. So we'll see if the players were able to dodge the diversions and stay focused and fixated on priority number 1, winning a World Scrabble Championship.
Yeah, I feel today we're expecting some great quality play, and what you just noted about the heat in Las Vegas, it is a factor. Like the environmental factors, the fact that people want to go out and use their time to see Las Vegas if they're there for the first time or haven't been there in a long time. And you want to kind of experience the entire offering of being out in Las Vegas for the special event. So it ends up being a case where you experience the heat, you're indoors a lot. Sometimes you get a little bit of anxiety from being cooped up, and yet at the same time you need to get a lot of rest in order to perform your best. So it is a factor that the environment is so intense in Vegas, and I'm hoping that while they're indoors and starting their first game of the day, that these two players will have a great experience and give us be in optimal condition to perform. So it looks like Will's drawing the styles and the game's underway.
Yeah, Will's clock already started 10 seconds ago. We'll see if that's a factor. But Will, CGP, an homage to the old deceased Scrabble mailing list. CGP, his opening 3 tiles, and the nice EOR blank to complete the rec. CEGOPR blank for Will. He'll be looking to bingo with that first turn blank draw, but it is not in the cards. Those 3 clunky consonants, CGP, unable to bingo together. Will is an incredible anagrammer. If you've ever seen him do word walls on Aerolith on his stream, he is routinely near the top. And I bet it's not going to take much time for Will to determine I have no 7-letter bingos here, and I've got to decide on the next best play. And of those next best play options, I think a 5-letter Porge, Porge, could come down for 22, or a tighter, smaller play like Cog for 12 coming down, holding a bingo prone EPR blank. Shan, what do you think is going through Will's head here between these longer plays, Porge, and these shorter plays like Cog?
Well, personally, I prefer the shorter play. I mean, giving the additional tiles to your opponent for them to potentially bingo, because you're confident when you have PER and a blank that you are going to get to a bingo, especially with someone like Will who's got the deep word knowledge. Yes, he can also bingo with even deeper pool or less optimal rack. But the thing is that why make it easier on your opponent when you know you have the blank in hand? Rather than give up more letters, play a little bit shorter. That's my take on it. But it looks like he's lining up Porge, so I think he's opting for points. So here we go.
Yeah, so points, 22 of them to be scored for Will on this opening turn. Some people recommending Perog, P-E-R-O-G, the anagram of that word, but in top-level Scrabble, if possible, it's always better to slot consonants, not vowels, next to those double-letter squares on the first turn to avoid big overlaps. It looks like Will has been put on hold after this play. He is not drawing his tiles yet, as perhaps this is a word Nsikak is not quite so familiar with. Again, the World Championship and Cullen's play is usually a 5-point challenge. So if Nsikak does choose to challenge this word, he would not lose his turn as box rules of Scrabble state. Instead, Will would just gain 5 extra points added to the total of the play, and Nsikak would still get to respond on his turn. So we'll see. Will on hold and has not elected to draw his provisional tiles yet, just kind of sitting there with his C and his blank calmly and coolly. Now he is reaching in the bag for these provisional tiles. And of course, we know that this word is valid and will not be coming off the board. So the 5 tiles Will draws will be the 5 tiles he keeps next turn. As Nsikak lines up Royal Ing, Royalling. That is not a valid word, but we are we will see if he decides to pull the trigger on it. It's always tough. You question everything you thought you knew when you play on stream, knowing that hundreds or thousands of people are watching you. We've got 213 already live on this video. I expect to hit 300 or 400 easily live viewers, and these videos after the fact often pull thousands, if not tens of thousands of viewers. So you'd hate to miss a bingo, but you'd also hate to play a phony and lose a turn. All that goes through your head, and that anxiety and stress a lot higher when you are on stream. Will's 5-tile provisional draw, EMUUW. And for Shan, the casual viewers at home, is that a good draw, EMUUW?
U and W are considered a fatal combination in most circumstances. Having the second U to go along with it, pretty much other than the emoji uwu, It's just what people in the chat are also noting. That's super awful. He picks up the 5 points for Porridge, which is just fine. And so he gets the nickel on the challenge, and now he gets to mix up his rack and see what he can do in order to better his position for the following turn. But I think with Nsikak now realizing probably that one of the factors I think for his thought process around challenging was whether or not he had a bingo through any of the letters, and after realizing that's not so, he's dumping Paulina. So this is pretty much a blow up the rack, clean it up kind of play. I'm not sure I would necessarily find that most optimal, but what do you think, Will?
I don't know. Piony, makes some sense in that situation as well. A lot more defensive, as Paulinia does take an S. That ALR leave is likely to play nicely with the floating E on the board. But Paulinia is a play that makes a lot of sense as well. You're just taking a little bit of a gamble that your opponent doesn't have an S. Although against Will Anderson, one of the best players on the planet, I'm a favor of opening up volatility like that. Let's make this game a race to an S. You're so good, I may need to get a little bit lucky to beat you. And so let's set up opportunities for that luck to happen on the board. We'll see neither player drawing an S here, but Nsikak drawing a blank. So that will be huge. He'll counter Will's blank with his own blank. Will not going to bingo. Again, that dreadful Uwu combo, as Shan mentioned. Going to muck up this rack. Perhaps one day we will see Uwu get legalized. I think there's a big campaign out there to legalize Uwu. But in the interim, will have to find another way to respond. While we don't have Uwu, we do have Umu, UMU. And it seems like that is what Will's going to play. He also gets to decide if he wants to play this on top of Porge, UG, and ME, or on bottom, making GU and EM. But he's opting for the place that allows bingos to come down a little bit easier, something I think Will wants to do, as he's likely to bingo very shortly with this blank on his rack. Play passes back to Nsikak, EMRTTV blank. So he does pick up that blank, but clunky consonants that are also going to impede his chances at bingoing. And wasting no time, he'll drop down the three-letter VIM, a staple word for Scrabble players. He had VIM, and also, if he wanted to keep this board a little more open, VOM through the O in Paulinia for the same score. I might have opted to do that. If I'm looking to bingo, I want lines for my bingo, but he's drawn so well, I think it's not going to impact him. Back to Will, ACESWY blank. And Will, again, looking to bingo out of this rack. He does have a playable one, and shout out to one of the biggest Scrabble tournaments out there. The word plays through the U and Umu, and that would be Causeway for 75 points. That was Will's only playable bingo. But perhaps in this situation, bingoing not correct. He has plays like YAWS or WAYS, forming Paulinias for 47. His bingo would score 75. 47 and hold a blank, or 75 and bingo. Shan, what would you do here?
I think the margin of points is enough to justify taking the bingo. Definitely that Paulina spot looks dangerous. But I think for approximately 30 points of a difference, you got to take the bingo. And what better bingo to take for the stylish reasons as well than Causeway? I think theoretically, had that Umu in place below, it wouldn't have actually played. So that's an interesting thing as well, considering that after Nsikak played Vim, it blocked the A line. So here we go with Causeway, and he's just deciding to position his blank as the first A, and I think we've kicked things off well, and this is going to create a very interesting double line for Nsikak to take advantage of if he sees it.
Yeah. So Will opting to play the bingo here opens a double line, as well as some other opportunities. You can see he's looking at it, counting it, finally hitting the clock. The bingo to put Will ahead 117-40 in favor of the American. And Nsikak is going to get an opportunity to double-double. Now, I'll drop this right now as this is game one. For those of you watching at home, I know some people watch these more for strategic analysis. Some people like solving puzzles here. I will be calling out candidate plays and bingos rather quickly in the turns. If that's something that you don't want to hear from me, put this video on mute. Or if you're watching the stream after the fact, just a video, maybe pause and try to find the bingos yourself. But I'm going to focus more on narrating what's happening and what's going through these players' heads. They tend to find these options very quickly. So more about deciding which one to play. And Nsikak did have an 86-point double-double through the C, reticent, but instead opts to take the 80-point test turn at the bottom of the board, perhaps to knock out this volatile Polynea's play. I think I would have opted to take the points here and played the double-double, but in any case, Nsikak now narrowly ahead 120-117 over Will Anderson, who has AFIJNNO on his rack, looking to respond in a big way. He'll have options that J, a dangerous threat, a cool word, Johanna, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Yojana, from the Y in Polynia to the A in Causeway, a really nice way to score points here. He's also got some more standard plays, JA playing to the left side of Polynia for 36, but holding the unbalanced FINNO, or Will could opt to hold on to the J here, FOIN, plays nicely on top of Testern, shuts this board down in a devastating way, and scores 32 points. So Shan, between the options of Foin on top of Testern for 32 and Yojana for 32, which do you like?
I definitely like Foyne. I think why not break up the scoring, give yourself a chance to score again with the J in the following turn. Take out a dangerous spot because you'd hate for your opponent to hit you with a Z play and ZE and take those cheapo points to victory. So I feel that's really strong, and also it's a decent leave of JAN, so it gives the opportunity to hit the JA play potentially next turn. So I definitely prefer that.
Yeah, this is a tough decision, and Yojana also tough to spot for Will. So we'll see. I expect probably to see. Oh, there he goes. As soon as I say tough to spot, he sets it up on his rack. That's of course, just of course. I have the commentator's jinx. I look to wield it with power and authority across the duration of this tournament. But Will setting up Yojana, and I'm now going to take some time trying to decide between these two options on this turn. Foyne would be devastating for this board. Will doesn't really have a reputation as an open or closed player. I think he can adjust his game in either case. And for me and many of the other North Americans, these international players, it's hard to know how they play in general and what you'd like to do to shape a board. Sometimes you try to stereotype certain, countries or continents by a style of play, but every player brings something unique to the table as well. And it's tough to know whose strengths and whose weaknesses lie where. But Will does opt to play the neat Yojana here. He'll keep his F to maybe hit that triple letter score next turn, but Nsikak gonna jump on top of it first with WOO. Nsikak made several plays very quickly here, this one no exception, as he's trying to maybe put a little bit of time pressure on Will, who can play very quickly. Will now AEFINOS with a 2-point deficit after Nsikak's last play. Will have a tough decision on his hands yet again. He has a double-double available for 48 points. It's fiancés, but he can also make a powerful play, OAF, to the right side of Causeway, forming YO. That only scores 19, but keeps a great leave in EINS. Shan, do you take the points here, 48 points holding an O, or do you open this board and try to drop a bingo next turn on Nsikak?
I would take the points. I sort of don't mind looking at a play like FES might be a little weak in terms of the leave, but to pluralizing Johanna. But I think fiancés is really strong, and why not keep taking the points? I don't think it necessarily creates too dangerous of the spots that are available, the N in the fourth position below the triple word score doesn't really leave risk of a very dangerous tile being hit on the double. So I think overall this is a good play. The only concern really is if an X lands onto the AX, EX spot on the triple letter score, but I think the points justify this.
Yeah, but 48 points for you. Okay, if your opponent plunks the X for 49, that's a wash, and your opponent's played off a very powerful tile. Will opting to take the points here as well. And now Nsikak with a similar decision, Hoied playing underneath Fiancés now, 33 points, but blows up this rack holding IL. Or perhaps he can try to be a little more aggressive in grooming his rack to bingo. A play like AHI from the A in Causeway holds DEILO. A little bit volatile, but also rather bingo prone. Nsikak going to take the points here. Hoied coming down rather quickly. He's been making all of his plays very quickly to put a little bit of pressure on Will. 33 points will make the score 184 for Nsikak to 197 for the American, who is holding EOQSSTT on his post-fiancés draw. Very interesting pull. And Will faced with the dilemma we've seen before, and I'm sure we'll see again this tournament. When do I play this Q? The Q is hands down the worst tile in Scrabble. He can play the nice three-letter QAT caught through the A in Yojana right now for 12. Or he can score 37 points, TOSE, to the right side of Causeway with 4 overlaps, ET, WO, Yojanas, and YE. But Will opting to shed the Q immediately, keeping his rack flexible. He may draw a bingo this turn, and he's holding both of those S's, the last 2 in the game, to hit the Yojana's turn next turn, perhaps. So Will playing the Q before we even have a chance to discuss that position, making up some of that time pressure that he's been put in. And Nsikak, CEIIILT. 3 is not what Nsikak was looking for here, and will have to try to work his way out of this rack. He's got options. Looks like he's set up illicit on his rack right now. I'm not saying a spot that plays, but a good play to clean up this rack, the nice 5-letter YITIE, playing from the Y in Causeway, would be a good way for him to get rid of this stuff. He's also got more aggressive options, perhaps WILI from the W in Causeway, just 9 points, but keeps a great leave. Or he can score more points, and that's what he's opting to do here with the play of Litchi. LITCHI, 22 points. It exposes not 1, but 2 triple word squares. But I feel like if you're going to open 1, why not open 2? Your opponent gets 1, I get the other one, sort of a wash. So that's a clever way for Nsikak to work out of this junky rack, score some points in the process, and we'll see what kind of draw he gets to bail him out. As Will and his play of caught next turn going to yield big dividends. He has drawn bingos, both the 7-letter words stereos and ossitor, and now Will forced to decide which play to make. Ossitor plays underneath Causeways, making OON and Causeways for 86. But with the big triple word square exposed, perhaps you want to address that spot instead. Ossitor or stereos would play making OI or SI for 76. So Shan, would you take a 10-point sacrifice to knock out the triple word, or would you play underneath Causeways and score as much as you can here?
Actually, I would play to the left. I think it's not so much just about the triple word. I feel like, with stereos, you're also opening another triple word. Yes, it's creating volatility, but I don't think that Will at this stage of the game necessarily wants more volatility, because if he can take a lead right now, the tempo of the game, the momentum of the game might be such that he can start to really dominate. So I feel like this is sort of an inflection point. Had it been earlier, a couple turns ago, perhaps I would have said, yeah, go ahead and take the additional points. But it seems logical to keep it a little bit more tight. And I don't know what he's going to decide here. It looks like Casterio definitely plays in both spots, but it's something that earlier I spoke about the opening play, and Will went for points, and here he's going for defense.
Yeah, wow. I'm a little surprised by this move, honestly. I would have grabbed the points here, and I consider myself a defensive-oriented player, but the bingo to put Will ahead by 79 on a board that is quickly running out of life. And perhaps he thinks, make my opponent open this up. I play whack-a-mole with the remaining lines as they get opened and cruise to a victory. But a 10-point sacrifice for Will will put him in a commanding position, address the best line on the board, and we'll see now if he's able to hang on after this play. Nsikak with an unplayable bingo of Faithed, Faithed, has to be a little bit frustrating. Everybody hates those unplayable bingos, or non-goes as they're sometimes called. He has a nice play, just FAH to the left side of Litchi. Is going to score 34 points, keep a nice DEIT leave, but you've always got to be careful. While DEIT is a good leave, this board is running out of bingo opportunities, and after FAH, that's even more true. You've also got to be worried about X plays between the A and Causeway and the E and Fiancés. I don't know what Nsikak can do to get back into this game. I think he's going to need to open this board. You see, he picks up his tiles for FAH, pulls them back, and I think reluctantly going to have to make this play. Perhaps he feels a parallel play on the right side of this word next turn will allow him to open up a new quadrant of this board. He'll have other ways to do it. Plays on top of Fiancés, the E and the S, stringing out to the right side. Plays down to the N in Fiancés. But this board is running out of life after Will's play of stereos. Shan, what are you thinking here? Would you play FAH, keep that nice leave, and roll the dice that you hit the E and Causeway or the S and Fiancés for a bingo? Or would
I
you
agree that it's enough points and not a lot of choice. I think playing anything else is difficult. The play that I saw earlier when he played Hoyd was Ahi and Causeway forming EH and SI. At that time, I thought that would have been a little bit better to kind of prevent the rack from being completely dissolved or mostly dissolved, as he did with Hoyd. And then he ended up drawing, the extra eyes. So, but in this case, a play like that doesn't really address the problem of having, the F being a heavy consonant and not very helpful for bingos. So in this case, he's now scoring. He's taking out a dangerous spot, and he's got to hope that in a turn or two, he can find a lane that he can actually use to close this margin a little bit. But it looks like with Will's tiles holding the Z, he'll continue to be able to score enough points for the time being that it's going to put more pressure on Nsikak to find a bingo.
And Will picking up a big Z. We'll go ahead and display the unseen tiles. There are now 21 tiles in the bag. You can see 21 in the bag, 28 unseen to Will. Again, top-level players, for those of you new to the stream, do track off the tiles as they get played, so they have a good knowledge of what that could potentially be drawn by themselves or by their opponents in the future. Will's got a big decision to make. ZA plays alongside Polynia. ZO and ZA and AL scores 44 points, keeps a nice bingo-prone leave. But yeah, ZAG on top of Fiancés forming ZE and AS is an extremely defensive play, as there are no unseen S's, no unseen blanks, and no way for Nsikak to do anything about that quadrant. The S also a great tile to bingo, and Will has now knocked it out on this board. So an interesting decision there. I think a lot of players would drop ZA very quickly, but Will, I think, doing a wonderful job playing some defense here and nursing his leave. Nsikak now ABDEIRT, 2 7-letter words, again unplayable with the defensive effort that Will has made this game. Red bait and tri-bade, also several other 8s through that S, but nothing to play now on this board. And Nsikak got to find a way to breathe some life into this game. Oh, cool. Causeway takes a back ED. You could just play that for 27 right now, but I don't think that's a play that wins the game, just a little word knowledge flex. He's probably looking to play a word that opens this board up and needs to figure out how aggressive he wants to be on that opening. He's got BAD to the right side of Litchi, going to string that B out for him to bingo from. B not the best tile to bingo from, but without a 6-letter word from Will, tough to block that. And even most 6-letter words from the B will give bingos back. So I think this is a good idea here. potentially also Baized through the ZE, but that to me feels a little too desperate trying to catch back up. I like this play of bad, and a good play from Nsikak is going to give him options yet. Adeinuv on Will's rack now. He has drawn the long word from the B that he needs to obstruct this line. Bavined playing for 42. The Leaf of You, not very good. It does give back bingo opportunities underneath. And as this pool gets more and more closed, Will has to be more and more concerned now with the possibility of an X bomb that would score the same as a bingo. ZEX and AX would allow a boatload of points. But Will, I think, has no choice but to knock out this B line here that has been opened up. And he's going to score so well. He's now up 97 points that he may outrun the bingo. He'll likely outrun the X bomb. And Nsikak has pulled this X bomb. Shan, do you think he just puts it down very quickly, or do you think he tries something else perhaps to get back into this game in a more creative way?
Well, he's lined up extirp on his rack, which is a really brilliant find from where it would land. Whether that's a better choice than just dumping the X is interesting, because I feel like it is pretty defensive. Look what it does to the score here to get an exact precise thing. But I think that he's actually made a really ingenious play. And what this will do is, because we know that there are no hooks available, it really doesn't leave a whole lot to do in the top right corner. It really just turns us into a little bit of dogfight or a trench warfare now to see who can score enough points to win this game. So I really like this play. It comes down to how you feel about the unseen tile pool. Turning over a lot of giving up your RITE, but and it has not really worked out from that perspective. But as far as just point scoring and board management, it's just an impressive find to even see that.
Yeah, so Will now does not get bingoed on, but does get hit for 65 points. That makes the score 366 to 344 in favor of the American, who's sitting on a bunch of 1 point tiles. Xterp does take a back S, but of course that is not a concern in this situation. And Will's got to be looking at this unseen pool now. Just 3 tiles in the bag. BDEG IIKLOU. Will's going to probably spend a good amount of time on this turn just making sure, are there any possible bingos my opponent could still have, or do I even need to block this board up? That remaining pool just so awful. He's also got to think about potential plays on top of X Turk. BOUK, GOUK look to be a serious and high scoring options that could give Nsikak a chance in this game without bingoing. I've run the entire pool through, and there is only one possible bingo left for Nsikak from Will's perspective, and that plays through the P in Xterp up boiled. So Will's going to take some time, do all this calculus, look for potential bingos, using the E in causeways and slotting 1 tile under the ME, maybe even 9-letter bingos from the AS. But I think he'll slowly come to the same conclusion. I've only got one concern, and that's plays using the P in Xterp, either the 4-letter play to the triple word or up boiled through the P. As long as I block that spot and score a decent amount of points, this game is mine to lose.
Yeah, there's another bingo lane that's kind of invisible. Not that the tiles available really are bingo prone, but the E in Causeway does create a little bit of an 8-letter lane where E is in the second position. So if Nsikak had a better rack that was more close to bingos, he could consider trying to set up some kind of fish for that sneaky lane. But I think right now what it comes down to is, does Will block the top right corner, and how? And is Nsikak able to pick up a tile that helps him utilize that spot in the following turn? So that's one of the threats available. Beyond that, it's going to be really tough to see a way for Nsikak to close the gap. with such little good, such few strong available tiles remaining.
Yeah, man, Will just needs to pound that spot up top on top of Extirp, and yet I'm not seeing a compelling way to do that. You are about the only option I see, and I think Will comes to the same conclusion. To some at home, this looks like playing the equity game, hold AELNR like a nice leave, but Will's got to make sure his rack is flexible enough next turn not to bingo. He's not looking to bingo, but he's making sure he dodges some of that muck in the bag and wisely blocking every opportunity left for Nsikak. So I believe Will likely to hold on and win this game. One tile in the bag now for Nsikak to draw. And he's got to go through and look, is there anything in that pool that might draw me a bingo? And then I have to hope Will misses that bingo. Is there any way for me to open up this board? But with such poor tiles on his rack and such a tight board after Will's play of stereos, keeping things tight, I don't think there's any way for Nsikak to get back into this game.
It's a little unfortunate that the R is sitting on Will's rack, because a play of up builder would have been really amazing to somehow get a sneaky win. Meanwhile, Will is likely to bingo out with what he has drawn. So tough one where it's quite likely to end with a large margin, despite being otherwise a very close game throughout. And I think for Nsikak, he had played quickly most of the game. That did not seem to hinder him from making pretty sound choices throughout the game. I think one of the things that it means now is he gets time to think through lots of different possibilities. But given the fact that there's only one tile in the bag, and the margin is quite large, it doesn't appear that there is a tile he could just dump to even fish for anything, even if it was the case where Will fail to block effectively. So this game is just a matter of time now, and we'll see whether or not Will is able to respond the following turn, finding the bingo.
I'm certain will spot the bingo if he has it. Will a bingo machine. And Nsikak now maybe has an inference to make. AUK seems to be a much better block at the top. It does empty the bag, but given the shape of the board, the state of the board, I feel like Will doesn't have to be worried about a bingo back. AUK playing for a ton of points. So Nsikak perhaps could deduce that the K or the A were one of the three tiles that Will did not have on his rack, and possibly something he could draw here. But yeah, Nsikak's got to decide, do I play defense now? Do I try to stop Will from bingoing out? Do I try to play offense and open up any possibility? Or do I just play the spread game? Maybe drop my ZED, and AD, score some points. I don't know, but we know Nsikak is in a losing situation here. He'll use his clock and try to find any shot to get back into this game, but alas, not on the cards for the Nigerian.
Yeah, when we look back at the plays in this game, it's going to be interesting because there were choices to be made. I think both players made very very sound choices throughout. So I wouldn't characterize any of them as mistakes. However, there were choices to be made. Were being more aggressive, being more defensive, being more bingo prone with the leave versus scoring more points. And I think a few of these, have really made the definition of what this game has come down to. And I think for Insikak, he's working out what tiles are available, and if there's any chance that he could somehow dump one tile and create a possibility of a word, but it doesn't appear that that's possible. Um, the other thing about this game that was interesting was the choice of playing test turn, hooking the S onto Polonia as opposed to reticent. That was one of the major choices made in this game. And then so quickly we saw the S's get all used up and the blanks used up, such that S hooks weren't available at all or even possible. So that made it something where it really favored the player in the lead who could control the shape of the board.
Uh, And I've run analyses on Scrabble before. Looking at the tiles drawn, players love to lament about getting double blanked when their opponent draws both blanks, but my analysis showed it's actually harder to win a game when one player draws all 4 S's than it is to win a game when your opponent draws both blanks. And Will crucially drawing all 4 S's and using all 4 very effectively. 3 of them in bingos, 1 in Causeway, 2 in stereos, and the last in a 48-point double-double. So a solid played game by both players here, absolutely, and slightly better tiles, I'd say, for Will, who did what he needed to do with them to hold on to a victory here.
Yeah, and not to mention the strong word knowledge displayed by both players, Polonia, Testerns, Johanna, Litchi, and being exterp and being able to see, the fun word of causeway come down as well, which, although that's not a difficult find for Will, definitely, many players seeing a number of heavy tiles on the rack might not even think to look for a bingo that much, and they'd try to dump a W and Y somehow. So this was a well played game, as you said, from both players, one that really displayed a lot of different elements of their skill sets.
Yeah, and I mean that's Scrabble. You can have 2 players play a perfect game. One of them has to lose, barring the 1% situation where they tie, and that's seeming to be the case here for Nsikak. Well done by Will using his tiles to his advantage. A tough draw for Nsikak on this game, but I'm sure we'll see more from him if this is a caliber of play he brings to the table. I'm sure he'll be back up at these top tables routinely during this tournament. I'm looking at the pairings for round 2, trying to get ahead, see what we're going to do next. And I see on board 5, David Eldar versus Adam Logan. How could you say no to that matchup? So, barring protest from the crowds, I believe that's the game we're going to try to pull on stream next. David Eldar of Australia to go first against Canadian Adam Logan. That's awesome, man. That's firepower at board 1. So that's next for y'all.
That's going to be
Sean, you've heard of those players before, have you not?
It's going to be thrilling. It's going to be something that everyone should tune into. Send a message to a friend, your Scrabble club mates. Let them know, hey, if they're not yet watching, this is a great way to spend a Sunday. And the amount of knowledge that's being displayed is nothing to sneeze at. There's not that many players who can play at this level so consistently, and I think the next match is going to be fantastic. But even looking just at what was displayed in this game, I was really impressed. And Will is going to go up to 9-0 in this field, and that's a really tough way to start any tournament. And he's got a challenge for that 10th consecutive win. So really exciting what's going to continue to happen in the rest of this tournament, and see how it unfolds.
Yeah, man, I am so excited to be a spectator for what's going to be just 3 days of incredible Scrabble from some of the best players in the world. A smidge disappointed that the greatest of all time, Nigel Richards, unable to attend this year. And yet we've seen from this game the caliber of play that we can expect still so incredibly high from the players who did make it out here. I got on my soapbox yesterday. I'm going to take this time to do it once again. The reason I volunteered 2 weeks of my time to stream every day, all day, of both the Scrabble Players Championship and the World Scrabble Championship is because I love competitive Scrabble. I think this is one of the best games ever created, and I want to see as many players out here as possible. I have no affiliation with this stream. I do not get monetization from the number of viewers on the stream or the people watching these videos after the fact, but I want as many people to be playing competitive Scrabble as possible. So you can help us out in that mission. We're showcasing the best players in the world. If there's ever a time to share on your social media this event, it's right now. So if you could share this link around, share the coverage around, send these videos after the fact to any of your nerdy, word-oriented, math-oriented, music-oriented friends. Scrabble has a lot to offer to a lot of people. Share this link around. Let's get as many people as possible watching competitive Scrabble for the next 4 days, showcase the best players in the world. Man, yeah, please help us out with that. All right, stepping off the soapbox, Nsikak correctly identifying he has no shot in this game. He'll play LIB, and will to bingo out now. When it rains, it pours. We'll have the 66-point General, Generale, and of course, Nsikak, as soon as he draws that K, has to know what's about to happen. So what looked to be a back and forwards tight game is going to end up being a 110-point victory for Will. This bingo and the points Will gains from Nsikak's rack will make the final score 462 for the American to 352 for Nsikak from Nigeria. Well played, solid game by both players, but of course, one player has to win and one has to lose in these games. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game. Here's a pop quiz for you. There's one word on this board which has a meaning that is a measure of distance. Can you identify it? I'll have a follow-up question if you get it right.
Oh, oh man. I don't know. I have no idea.
We'll see if the chat picks that one up. Oh, they've already got it. Good job. It's Johanna. So Johanna is a measure of distance. Now here's another follow-up question. There's one of the acceptable two-letter words is also a measure of distance. Which two? This two-letter word is not on the board currently, but out of the entire list of two-letter words, which one is a measure of distance?
Oh, I know that one.
Oh, and the chat knows that one too. Li. Okay, too easy for you, folks. But this was a great game. Keep picking up those words and sharing your thoughts in the chat with us. We're loving the comments. We're getting great inputs and insights from all the players, cheering on folks, showing a lot of support. And we know we've got Team Nigeria and Team USA here in the chat as well. So great support from their compatriots and from everyone all over the world. Thanks for tuning in for this first game of day 2 of the WESPA.
Yeah, we will have 4 games. This is the first of 4. We'll have 3 more before our lunch break, about a lunch break of an hour and a half or so, and we'll be back with 4 more games. But your commentators need some coffee, so I am going to step away for just a moment. We're going to pull to our buffer screen, and we'll be back. David Eldar, Adam Logan in just a few short minutes. Y'all in chat, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back from the World Scrabble Championship.